Well, good morning, everybody. Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 5th day of November 2020. It's Thursday. We still don't know yet, although I think we have a pretty good idea who's going to win. But, uh, the obstruction, the lying, we knew that was going to happen. So I think they're all prepared for it, and they just got to let the vote go to its completion. Got to count the votes. It's an election. It's what you do. There's nothing happening amiss other than in the beginning where different states' legislatures that were Republican led, they said, well, we're going to make this difficult. So you know, when the votes come in, we're not going to tally them as they come in. Or 2 weeks before, or 1 week before. Oregon starts counting a week before the election. They gather them up and then they start counting a week ahead of time. That's just, but so at least we were ready, when election day came. But then we've been voting by mail for 22 years. So this is no big deal to us, right? But you had some manipulation going on in other state legislatures to try to suppress the vote. That was the goal. Here's the thing. If you're confident of your guy, you don't have to do that. The fact that they did it says they're not confident of him, that he would win in a normal, regular way. They have to stop it. You've got the Postal Service doing what they did. There's still votes that are missing. What did I read? 27% in Florida? Yeah, come on. And so if Joe's still out in front, well, Joe's still out in front, isn't he? So, I don't know. We'll see. You never know. But with Cauda Draconis, it's signaling the end of something. We have a 5 energy for today. That's change. We also have a 5 in this reading because I'm going to keep the same cards here that I've had. I've had to start a couple of times here because my software screws up and stops. And so it's like, oh, geez. But here we have Laguz. And I forget Laguz, what number is it? Is it the 18th? No. Let me see what it is. 21st, not the 18th. 18th is Birkenau. We have Laguz for the rune for today, which is flow from spirit. That needs to be what is informing the process right now, is the flow from spirit, remembering that is what we are. We are souls inhabiting the body. We're not the ego. No matter what this guy thinks. But I began with the card 4 of the Major Arcana, the Emperor. The guy that doesn't really look you in the eye. He's all about power and control and authority. He comes after the Empress. First you have the Fool. Takes the leap of faith into form. You have that form defined by the Magician and the High Priestess, both the outer and the inner. And then from after that's done, then the Empress gives birth to the world. She's the goddess. She's, the creator manifested into the mother aspect, right? She's the mother aspect of the creator. Now, this could be the father aspect of the creator, but not really, because he's not part of that creation. In truth, the Emperor is simply her consort. So whatever it was that allowed her to then give birth to creation had nothing to do with this authoritarian guy. Now, he can be the father figure. He can be benevolent. He can be all kinds of things. He can be truthful. He can be about justice and honor and dignity. But sometimes he's not. And all too often, the power and the authority that we have to learn how to cope with and contend with in form gets away from us when the ego comes in. So you could look at this. You could look at the Empress as service to others and the Emperor as service to self. And when it plays out that way, well, hopefully you have an emperor, you have an individual in authority, a male figure that is more egalitarian, like the Chariot. Yeah. That was the next card that I drew. I'm going to sort of put the third one, though, in terms of kind of like the focus of it and how this needs to play out. But basically, the next card I drew was the Chariot. 7 is about balance, fairness, equality, healing, egalitarianism. represents the scales. So bringing everything to balance, bringing everything to rest. Taking an observer role is another. When we have a 7 numerology for the day, then it's really about stepping back and taking an observer role. Today with the 5, it's about embracing change and fulfillment and protection. You know, bringing all of the, if you think in terms of the pentagram, you're thinking, you know, the 4 elements plus spirit, and aligning all of that together. But here you have the Chariot. You see the kingdom behind him. The king is back. You see the blessings of the goddess here. You have the triple aspects here, the two crescent moons on his shoulders, and then the center part of his collar sort of implies the 3rd aspect, the mother aspect. You see here, you see a cube, so foundation or structure, with the overshadowing goddess influence. You see the stars above of heaven. You see the sphinxes below, the lions. One's white, one's black, representing the projective side of self and the receptive side of self. Masculine, feminine, or you could say dark and light. When you think about, if you think about it in terms of positive and negative, what you're looking at, it's not a value judgment when you look at it that way either. What it is you've got basic electricity, magnetism, whatever, and on the dark side here, you're looking at the feminine principle. You're looking at the goddess aspect of the womb, of creation, of the void from which all things come. Okay, and then the in other words, when to take the reins and when not to, right? When to control and when to allow. You see the dreidel in the center of the shield here, and it's upright. It's not tilting over. It's not on its side. So it's spinning in alignment. And above it, you see the winged sun, which is healing. So it's healing that divide within so that you don't feel the need to assert yourself in an aggressive and controlling and authoritarian fashion. Now, the war within. Here you have the, I think we're going to take a 4th card here too, but you have the fire element represented here with wands, the 5 of wands. 5 aligns with today's energy of change. So some change needs to take place within, to where you understand the difference between the authoritarian within and the one that acts with wisdom. Because this is ego. In fact, you can think of this as ego and this as spirit, if you want to. But here you don't see the poles hitting anybody, do you? So normally, in normal readings, when I see the 5 of wands, I interpret that as playful struggle. So, you're trying to figure it all out. You're trying to work it all out and all of that. Maybe there's people are, it's just a battle of wills, basically. But it's not something where anyone's getting harmed. So if you think about it that way, then this is really more of the internal struggle that's happening right now in each one of us, trying to figure out, what's really going on here and how do we need to move forward. Now, if we look at Cauda Draconis, we're talking about letting go of things that don't serve us. And authoritarianism is certainly one of those. Lying, service to self. If you're familiar with Law of One, they talk about service to self versus service to others. And with the more soul-based experience, I mean, it can, either way is acceptable, right? In terms of the choice you make, as the Fool leaps into form, there's a choice that's made as to who you're going to be. And then the magician and the high priestess manifest. The magician manifests the external, stuff, basically, of creation, and then of your creation anyway. And then the high priestess comes in and takes care of the inner aspect of self. So, and then from there, the Empress gives birth to creation. And then he messes it up. Brings challenges in, brings the challenge of authority into the whole mix. And how we express that. Are we going to just sit there and say, oh, my word is the way that it is, my view is the only way that is? Or are we going to listen to other people? And really, that's what the 7, the chariot, implies, is being able to listen to both sides of the issue, being able to, find the fundamental truth of all things, and not get in the way of it. Because see, if you look closely at the card, and I'll show you again here, I'll shuffle one more time. If you look closely at the card, he's not getting in the way of anything. He's just standing there holding his scepter in his right hand. Everything is at rest. Everything has come to a rest. And he's observing. There's implied momentum in the card, for sure. But it's the sense of inner mastery, that you trust the process, which the Emperor cannot do, as you can see. And it's about managing perception with this guy as well. That's why you'll hear things like, oh, we're not saying to stop the vote count. And yet an hour ago, well, it's a little more now, on Twitter, in all caps, our resident Emperor said, stop the count. And whether or not he understands that the votes that are still left to be tallied, it doesn't mean people are now coming in and voting after the election. It's just that they haven't been tallied. I think he knows that. But you see, he's gotten himself into this line of discussion here to the people that are his essential marks, that he can manipulate, right? If he were truly confident about his success or whatever, as a president, he wouldn't be doing this. He would let the vote go on. The reason why it's happening the way that it is, by the way, is because we don't have vote by mail across the board in this country. Oregon, we start counting a week before, as they come in, they stack up a little bit, and about a week before they start counting. Some states, it's 2 weeks before. Some start doing it immediately. But the bottom line is, during this time, during the COVID crisis, we should have been counting these votes as they came in. All states should have done that. Just the second you start getting them, start counting. And then states can decide later on, well, do we like this? Do we like this method? Or do we want to still come to the polls? Bottom line, though, is that if you expect to know an election, where the election's going the night of the election, you've got to start counting votes ahead of time that are coming in. I mean, this is just common sense. The fact that they did the opposite of this, that was by design. That was to manipulate the outcome so that when all is said and done, we can't count the votes. You're voting after the fact. No, you're not. They're sitting there. Or they're sitting in UPS or postal warehouses because of the idiot DeJoy, who needs to go to, as they're saying, to jail for this. This is voter suppression. This is election interference. That's illegal. That's federal. That's felony. You can't do that. And yet that's what's going on, right? While one fumes and lies, and the other trusts the process. So I guess we have another election reading today. But I think that's, if you look at it from that standpoint, we have some struggling going on around. I don't know if anyone's gotten hurt yet, but, in Maricopa County, they had weapons, so I don't know. The count went on, didn't it? They locked up. They locked the building. They said, you can't come in now. They locked them in there. And they continue to count. So again, whatever we're trying to do to control this, or not we, but him and whatever, it's going to be for nothing, because the vote's going to continue. The courts have ruled the whole way that it's going to continue anytime it's gotten there. The stuff that they got before they're trying to get into other courts is so incoherent. He thinks he can simply walk over to the Supreme Court and say, hey, elect me. It doesn't work that way. Again, it doesn't work that way. None of what he's doing works that way. But nobody understands that, right? Well, most of us do. But the people that support him do not. They've in other words, they've become the mark who no longer thinks on its own. They simply, lay prostrate at the feet of the manipulator. So, you can look at this from that standpoint, from an external standpoint of what's happening to us collectively, or you can look at this as the inner struggle that we're having to contend with. And for some, you're going to have to contend with it for a while, because you got to wake up. You got to have time to wake up. You have to have time to awaken to the truth of what's been going on and how you've been used and manipulated. And that's not something that's easy for some people. Well, for most people, I would think. You have to kind of work yourself into it. Because if it doesn't just hit you in the face and you go, oh my God. Because after that, see, then you start thinking, right? And things start falling into place. And suddenly it's like, oh boy. And now you've awakened from your sleep, from your slumber. Anytime you give over your will to someone else, that's the risk, right? When you let someone else define what truth is, that's the risk. But everything he's ever said is so easily verifiable as being not true. So at some point you're going to have to cope, and this is where the inner part of this reading, I think, comes into play, is that you're going to have to figure out that inner struggle of what is authority and what should that look like. How do you manifest that? Is it based on truth, or is it on whatever branding experience that's been going on for this guy? Because branding is about creating a message, all right? They do this in marketing. It's part of marketing. You have a product. You're going to market your product. So how are you going to talk about it, right? So that people will buy your product. Well, some folks have bought into his product. But I assure you, that's all it is. It's a product. It's a branding exercise. That's all this has been. How many of you can I get to believe my lies? And then what will you do to show your adoration and your commitment to me? Will you come out en masse with no masks on and no social distancing during a pandemic? Last week, over 61,000 children were diagnosed. Over 61,000 of our babies were diagnosed with COVID. Why? Why did that happen? Why aren't our children being kept safe? Because you've got states, go to school, go open schools, open schools, open schools. Again, as much as this is about what's happening vis-a-vis the election, what this truly is about is who are we? Who are we individually? Who are we in relationship to other people? And for some of us, we've decided to follow a con man because maybe he spoke to some of our issues, maybe he spoke to some of our concerns. But trust me, it wasn't because he shared any of them. It's because he wanted to get elected. He conned you. So at some point, you're going to have to cope with the inner struggle to understand all of that and come back into some kind of a alignment where you trust the process. And I think part of that allowing is allowing spirit to inform that whole process, to understand that that's what you truly are, is spirit, not the body, not the form, not the personality, it's spirit that you are. And when you're that, it's easy to understand the flow and the interaction that should be happening with each other. the number of families that have been divided, maybe permanently, by this guy. Do you understand what we've lost in this country? The ability to look at my next door neighbors who are Republicans and think, why are you Republicans again? Why are you supporting this guy again? And then you start to think about, oh, okay, will we ever get back to where we were? You know, Biden is saying, well, we have to do that. Well, and he's right. We have to. But trust has been so mangled, if not shattered in some cases. The nastiness, the vitriol that we've all been listening to, that we listen from other people who are just so nasty and in service to a dictator who's not about the truth. He's only about control and what this can do for him. He's got debts coming due. See? He's got potential legal issues happening if he's not president again. So of course he wants to stay in office. So we'll see what happens, but at the end of the day, if it's not him and it's Biden, you got to drop all of this. You got to figure this out. And as much as we want to think it's without, that we've got to figure out, and yeah, there's some things that are going to have to be dealt with, but it's the inner aspect of self that's really at issue here. So think about that today and going forward. How do you manifest the authority within? Is it based on truth? Is it based on honor and justice and fairness, which the Emperor can definitely be? It's a 4 energy, so it's foundational. It's the structure of who we are, but how we manifest that, do we manipulate others into our own belief structure so that we maintain the advantage over everyone? So that we can continue our criming and all of that we're doing? Or do we trust the process, trust the vote, trust that fairness will be ultimately the guidepost, if you will, the rule of law being the guidepost? Or do we just, set fire to the Constitution and watch it burn? Think about who benefits. He certainly does. Whoever his handlers are, because he's got them. Make no mistake about that. So again, what brought you there? Why couldn't you see it? And that's the thing that some of us, anyway, are going to have to struggle with. The rest of us are going to have to struggle with, how do we come back together with everybody after all of this? I mean, everyone's going to have to struggle with that. But we're going to have to search our souls, and we're going to have to come into alignment with a higher level of awareness here. One that flows directly from spirit, the laguz of it all. That flows directly from spirit, letting go of that which no longer serves, which has never served. Learning from the karma, learning from the past. Not getting stuck there, but learning from it. And then letting that, help us going forward to see the truth, to see the shared direction that we need to be going in. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree on how to get there, and that's fine. That's maybe a little of this, right? But it doesn't mean we need to harm one another in the process. We can put away the guns. We can put away the protesting here where it doesn't seem to actually be protesting anything. It's just, let's just come out and have a skirmish. So that's all this is. Watched it on, Labor Day? Down in Salem at our Capitol? People, people just being beaten, that were just peacefully either walking around or protesting, just standing there. You had all these people come in, from this side. And they start harming people. They start beating people up. And they got it on video. So I hope they arrested all of them, you know, because that's what needs to happen. That's the process, right? You assault somebody, you commit a battery, whatever. You get arrested. Simple. None of it was in self-defense. We saw them running across a massive area. Literally, they were running to get to these people, to beat the crap out of them. That's not this country. Apparently it is now. So I really think that the inner struggle, we can look at this, I mean, as the collective one we're in, but I really think it begins here, doesn't it? It's got to. Because it's in there that you make the choice to do this, or to see the truth and understand that you're being played. So I'm sorry about that. It just happens sometimes, I guess. Hopefully it will never happen like this again. But this is how Hitler came to be. Is that really what you want here? Maybe some of you do, but my God, you're foolish if you do. So, you know, figure out the inner struggle. Know when to assert and when to not, and when to allow. Know when there's an actual struggle to assert about. And live in truth. The real truth, not the manufactured one, not the branding exercise of this guy. Maybe we don't need a fourth card. Maybe we have enough here, so that's enough for today. And for the weekend, I think we'll come back on Monday and do it all over again. Hopefully we'll know by then. I think we'll know today. Or tomorrow. I think that some of the votes, I think some of them are coming in tomorrow. Or they have until tomorrow. So maybe Nevada does. I don't know. It's all become so confusing anymore. We're hearing so many states and trying to keep each one of them, you know, how did they screw it up? And, you know, what did their legislatures do? And all that other nonsense to try to affect the outcome of the election. When it simply should be the votes that are counted that affect the outcome of the election. That's what it used to be. We used to at least trust that. But when you've got an emperor who, you know, wants to stop the vote, oh, but keep that one going because I'm ahead. Yeah, he doesn't get to do that. So either he really is so delusional that he doesn't know that, or worse yet, he does know. And he's just doing it just to try to confuse everybody and keep everybody so off balance and sow the chaos so that nobody knows what's going on. It's like saying there's a problem when there just isn't one. So now we're going to go and fight about a problem that doesn't exist. That's really what's going on right now. Count the votes, see what it is. What else can you do? It's justice. It represents our Constitution. It represents this country. To do anything less is just that. It's less. And it's not good enough for this country. We're better than that. We always have been. So, work on the internal struggle, figure it out. Let spirit inform you, learn from the past, let go of that which no longer serves, and come into balance. Come into alignment with the truth of spirit. I know, it's not easy. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll talk again Monday. I finished the post for the liver alterative herbs, so I just need to do it. I need to do the video. So I'll get that going here probably today, and we'll see how that goes. And my video just kind of screwed up here, so hopefully it fixes it when it goes into YouTube. But I'll say this one more time in case it jumbled a bit. I've got the liver alterative herbs to do on the video. It is posted on the website though over at Stepping Aside. So if you want to check that out, you're welcome to do that and find out how to keep your liver healthy with herbs and all of that, the kinds of herbs you can use to do that. Anyway, I guess that's it. We'll talk again on Monday. And oh, actually, Sunday when I do the Esoteric Influences video, I'll do that. But other than that, I guess that's it. Have a good rest of the week and try to stay as sane as possible. For me, that's not looking at the news. I just don't look now. I can't take it. So anyway, too much conversation. I can't take it. Anyway, thanks a lot again, and be good to yourself. Be good to one another. Wear a mask if you go out around anyone at all, no matter whether you're inside or out. Have a mask on. Not a face shield only, a mask. Please. And blessed be.